Great.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nabil. I'm an assistant professor of design and data analysis at Northeastern University.
And I'm Doug. I'm a staff research scientist at the Center for Constructive Communication at MIT.
And today we're going to give a quick tutorial on how to use a new platform we've developed, which is called Feedback Map. So the purpose of Feedback Map is to try to help you make sense of your open-ended survey data more quickly and efficiently. It was motivated by a lot of the research and partnerships we have with various nonprofits and community organizations, many of which who are running Google surveys, for example, to get feedback from their communities on various policies and other issues, but often facing challenges from a time constraint perspective, and others really making sense of and analyzing kind of themes and topics and patterns and that open-ended feedback. And so we wanted to kind of develop a platform that actually uses new technologies from natural language processing and machine learning and other fields of study to help process that feedback and make it easier to identify some of the things people are saying. So I'm going to hand it over to Doug, who's going to demo how the tool works.
Great. Thanks, Nabil. And in case you're wondering, Nabil and I are sitting just a few feet away from each other, but we're on Zoom to record this. So Feedback Map, is that Feedback Map? Yeah, feedbackmap.org. And it's a pretty straightforward interface. Basically, just press this Browse Files button and upload a CSV of your Google Forms results. Now, if you don't have any Google Forms results, there's an example file that's in the code repository that's linked from our About section. And I'm going to go over that file right now and then show you what it looks like to run it through Feedback Map. So this the sample file is some fake survey data in which we imagine asking 20 people from each state in the United States a handful of questions. Which state are they from? What's their favorite meal? How old are they? What's a funny thing that you saw on the street recently? And what's the weather like where you live? Oh, and a few other things. Favorite sport? Are you left or right-handed? And favorite ice cream flavor? So this has a characteristic that many research surveys have, which is that there's a mixture of sort of open-ended textual questions, such as what is your favorite meal? And then there's some categorical questions like what state do you live in or what's your age? So Feedback Map's goal in particular is to help you understand those open-ended responses. And so here's what it looks like. I'm just going to hit browse and open the file. First thing that happens is there'll be this summary tab that shows up and it will tell you how many responses there are. It then automatically categorizes all of the columns, all of the questions into open-ended or categorical. So the open-ended questions appear on top. So what is your favorite meal? What's a funny thing that you saw on the street recently? And then what's the weather like where you live? Then for each of them, it shows how many, what percentage of people answered the question. Since we generated this data synthetically, almost all of our fake users answered the question, which is good. And then there's a summary of the categorical questions, in this case, state, age, sport, left or right-handed, and ice cream flavor. And for these, it will show you how many different values we're seeing, and then how many different, on average, how many selections were made per response. So with Google Forms and with other survey platforms, you can have multiple choice questions that require just one answer. But you can also have questions which allow multi-select. So Feedback Map will do the work of pulling out the multi-select answers so that it tells you, really looks at each individual value one at a time. So now we come to kind of like the meat of what the tool offers, which you get when you click on one of these open-ended questions. So let's take a look at the answers to what is your favorite meal. When you click on a question, you'll be sent to this response analysis tab. The first thing it's going to show you is an automatically generated summary generated with OpenAI's GPT-3 language model of the responses to that question. So in this case, the auto-generated summary is people said that they like a variety of dishes featuring steak, ribs, salmon, chicken, and other proteins. Pretty hearty food, as well as side dishes, macaroni and cheese, and vegetables. So there you get a kind of a summary of all. Basically, we've taken all, in this case, 1,020 responses, sampled them, and run that sample through GPT-3 to generate the summary. The next thing we see, and I think this is in some ways the main offering of the tool, is a scatter plot which shows you how the individual responses are similar to each other. And so this scatter plot, in the scatter plot, each point represents a single response, and we can sort of zoom and pan with the mouse to kind of look at the space. And there's no interpretation to the absolute coordinates where each of the points is placed, but dots that are close together are likely to have the same meaning. And so I can mouse over the points to see some of the individual responses. So in this little cluster of pink responses, I have lots of different grilled items, it appears, grilled steak, lots of grilled steak paired with things, ribeye steak. So that's I guess that's one of our steak clusters. Over here we seem to have a fajitas cluster. Let's see, this is making me hungry. Yellow, well, it's a lot of steak in the responses. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Here's our chicken cluster. So just generally the points that are near each other will tend to have similar descriptions. And so browsing this tool is just a way to capture, I mean, it's an alternative to looking through the responses one by one, which is also a good way to explore your data. But in this case, since we've grouped the results semantically, it kind of makes it easier to see the broad themes. And what we've done is to automatically cluster the results so that based on some math to try to suss out what the major themes are. For each cluster that's produced, we produce a summary in similar fashion to how we produce the overall summary. So if you want to get a cluster by cluster summary, you can kind of look at these, look at the rows of the next table that's shown. So like, we can see that chicken one that I was looking at appears to be cluster 6. The most popular meal in that cluster is chicken parmesan in various forms. And then finally, there's also a cluster by cluster breakdown of what the top words and phrases are in each cluster. And so, for example, if I'm interested in kind of a deep dive or a deeper dive on cluster 6, I might sort to see that, well, cluster 6 has lots of mentions of chicken parmesan, and it also has a bunch of mention of grilled asparagus and several mentions of chicken. So I'm just going to take some other clusters randomly. Cluster 3 seems to be like a steak and potatoes. Cluster 9 seems to be about salmon with various sauces. So let me just quickly, do you have anything to add to this?
One thing also is the changing the coloring based on some of the categories.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah, so by default, we've auto-clustered the data based on the response text itself, but the tool's aware of what the categorical columns of your survey are too. So maybe I'm interested in instead categorizing by state. So if I do that, it's going to redraw the scatter plot, but now the labels are colors and the labels are based on the state. So let's just, and then we also recompute those individual categorical summaries. So as an example, Alaskans seem to like seafood dishes, not surprising. Let's see, I think yeah, like Hawaiians like dishes from Hawaiian and Asian cuisine, such as mahi mahi and poke bowls. Yeah, generally the auto summarization will take like the top 20 or so clusters in the data. The top words and phrases will show you all of them. So I think the interesting one I saw recently was Louisiana. Louisiana, you get like, Cajun food, crawfish, etouffee, shrimp, jambalaya, and so forth. So yeah, so I can take any of the other ones too. have it kind of grouped by age, or maybe I'm interested in another column. No, we also, in our fake data, we asked people, for our fake surveys, we asked people, what's a funny thing you saw on the street recently? So I'm going to take a look at the responses for that. And this again is based on the summary is based on GPT-3 and the scatter plot. By the way, the scatter plot, as you saw, it takes some time to compute the first time you upload the data, probably about a minute per 1,000 or 30 seconds or so per 1,000 responses. So you may need to be patient if it's a particularly large file. Let's actually, in this case, just group the responses by, it's got to recompute that. It's got to recompute the clustering. Let's group the responses by the response text and see what we get. So, you know, a lot of these funny things that were auto-generated seem to have to do with animals wearing things. Like here's a giant poodle on a leash dressed up in a tutu, horse wearing a tutu. I don't know how that works.
These are pretty reasonable things to see.
Yeah, I see these things all the time. I don't know why people think they're interesting to report. I love deadlines. I especially love the whooshing sound they make as they fly by. A man dressed up as a giant banana, hysterical. Full body. Oh, this must be the banana cluster. Lots of people dressed up as bananas. Yeah, who knows the wheres and whys of what GPT-3 thinks is funny, but there are some pretty good things in this list. What was it? I saw one which is like a dog wearing a shirt that says tater tots for life, I think. Yeah, pretty good.
It's a great shirt.
Yeah. Anyway, so just showing an example of another string variable. Do you have anything to add, Nabil?
No, I think this is great. You know, one question is probably around data privacy. So you can read about sort of how we're trying to protect privacy. I think the main point is we are not saving your CSV anywhere. So the data you upload, you can use it, and it's sort of, you're able to explore it when you're on the tool. But we ask that people, you know, re-upload CSVs whenever they want to try the platform out again. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us if you have feedback. We're pretty early in this, so we'd love to hear from you. And there's a survey link you might have seen on the analysis tab where you can click and share some of your feedback. It should only take a couple minutes.
And we intend to analyze the results of that survey with this tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I also just want to point out that we have the repository available under the code repository under an MIT license. And you can, if you'd like to run this yourself, we encourage you to do so. You do need an OpenAI account if you want the GPT-3 based summary features, but it's also easy to turn that off if you don't want that. And so yeah, it should be fairly straightforward to get running on your own computer if you want. Yeah. Anything else, Nabil?
No, thanks. That's great.
Great. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.